aid is a business in South Sudan, so it's part of the economy, and certainly the economy is reflected in the war. So there's definitely a component of food aid which is related to the war.
It's been condemned and criticised for manipulated by the Khartoum government for being a very expensive operation which does not deliver on the ground. It does not deliver on the ground.
We're flying over war-ravaged country, southern Sudan, where famine continues to claim new victims every day. Operation Lifeline Sudan, the lifeline to those in need down there on the ground, has been running for 13 years. It's an emergency relief effort whose end seems nowhere in sight. Is it an expression of the world's sympathy or some cynical speculation in human suffering? Operation Lifeline Sudan, OLS, is one of the UN's largest relief efforts of all time, and one of the most expensive. It's costing approximately $200 million a year. OLS is a collaborative effort by UNICEF, the United Nations World Food Programme, and a group of volunteer organizations, including the Save the Children organization. Today, though, that collaboration is shakier than ever. At the same time as the UN is complaining about its diminishing resources, the millions are continuing to flow with no end in sight. The airdrops of food over southern Sudan have become routine, an everyday activity for a large group of people, and a significant business operation with enormous turnover. We're now all the way up in northwestern Kenya, near the border with Sudan, in the small town of Lokishogyo, a wind-blown, desiccated flatland between mountains. It's frying pan hot here all year round. This is the land of the Turkana, nomadic cattle herders who live on a very simple material level. Plagued by recurring droughts, in constant bloody cattle feuds with neighboring peoples in Uganda and Sudan, these are a people who can never take life for granted. Through a quirk of fate, their grazing lands have had to make way for an emergency relief operation that they themselves derive no benefit from.
1984, when ICRC started to settle down his base in Lokichoko, because it was found that it was the most practical place to access southern Sudan. There were only two agencies. There was AMREF and the ICRC, and roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 people around. Now you have around 30 to 40 agencies, depending on the time, and you have now a population of 40,000 people in Lokichoko.
The aid industry is a huge business. It's a massive, multi-billion-dollar business. And when you have a huge humanitarian crisis, the logistics are huge. And most of the funds go into logistics. So Loki became a logistical center and headquarters for Sudan, because you couldn't do the same thing inside Sudan because of the conflict inside and the lack of infrastructure there. So a lot of people make a lot of money out of this business.
As the aid developed here, slowly this little town began to grow, and I think it is entirely dependent on the aid. I mean, everybody comes from far and wide who hasn't got a job to try and find their fortune in Loki, but I think they're disappointed a lot of the time. But everything and everybody you see here, I mean, everything has grown because of the aid and relief work into Sudan.
It was set up as an emergency to address the famine that occurred in 1988 when 250,000 people died. We had a similar situation occurring in 1998 when 2.2 million faced starvation in Bahr el Ghazal. The UN did not have any mechanism in place to prevent this occurring, and was too late. Again now, the year 2001, it is reported we have 2,500. They are reporting that themselves, the UN, facing starvation in Bahr el Ghazal. And what they do is continue to blame the protagonists in the war. It's fine to blame the protagonists of the war, but they should do something about it. They were set up as an emergency response, and they are not an efficient emergency response organisation. Even World Food Programme is a very inefficient emergency and very costly. Costing all these aircraft you will see in Lokichokyo, costing millions of dollars.
The OLS has been the most evaluated and most studied operation in the world. A lot of research has been done in the context of displaced persons, in the context of global conventions that have been generally signed by governments. And under OLS, ground rules have been signed by the various rebel movements who undertake, under those ground rules, all the conventions and treaties that governments hold themselves responsible to. So it's a big achievement not only in delivering assistance, but also to ensure the protection and safety of the populations, the vulnerable populations out there, and also the humanitarian workers that work in there.
So from Lokichokyo, we wish you a nice happy birthday, over.
Okay, thank you very much. I still have more grey hair, but still young, over.
Don't worry, when you get my age, you will see what is the grey hair for, over.
The MSF used to be part of the OLS, but it's not anymore. Why not?
Well, let's see, you remember the famine in '98. After this operation, MSF was not very proud of OLS activities, and also we make some declaration against this organization of OLS, UNICEF and WFP.
What was the complaint?
The complaint was diversion of food, not emergency preparedness plan, nothing like this.